All right. Let's see. All right. Well, welcome to the first Tangle Community Treasury, April 4th, 2023. We have Razor Finsgoblin, Cowie, myself, JD Sutton, Deep Sea, and Linus on the call, and Garrett Jin should be joining us. We are the elected reviewers committee. We're going to be doing weekly meetings at this time. And for right now, they'll just be recorded, and then I'll post them to the YouTube governance channel. I had the idea of maybe in the future, like, doing a YouTube thing where individuals can maybe make comment on the side. But I think maybe we spend the first month or two getting everything situated and running smooth before we start expanding out. All right, so I'm just going to start. Okay, let me just let Garrett know we're in the Google Meet. I'm going to try to go a little quick today because I have an 8 o'clock meeting right after this. But next week we'll have more time and we'll see what we get through, and we could possibly even maybe do another meeting later this week. Okay, so I'm going to do a slide share here. Okay, do you see the PowerPoint? No?
Not yet.
Okay, let me switch that to share screen. Okay, how's that?
Yes, there it is.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so just quickly, meeting agenda. We can go over the roadmap and timeline, the co-lead, how we did assign that, roles and responsibilities of the reviewers, and treasury priorities, and then we'll kind of hit communications, event tracking, and road ahead. Let me just try to send something to Garrett here. Okay. So general roadmap and timeline for our community treasury. And is that you, Garrett?
Yeah, it's me. Oh, sorry, I think I got the wrong link. Yeah.
No problem. Welcome. We're just getting going. Going to try to shoot through kind of just went over the meeting agenda, and I'm going to go over general roadmap and timeline for the treasury. As we are under the TIA, we can fund projects from right now. Basically, we are open. We still need to sign our service contracts with the TIA, and as people have known that follow the governance meetings, we are under the TIA umbrella until we finalize the Marshall Island LLC Tangle DAO. So the next steps will be to set up the Tangle DAO LLC within the Marshall Islands. The operating agreement has already been sent to my DAO. They will kind of be our representative in Marshall Islands, and we're waiting to hear back if they're satisfied with that. We're pretty sure that it should be good and there shouldn't be too many edits. We spent the last 3 months really building that Philo, and then myself kind of representing the community, just wanted to push that forward. We set up the multi-sig for the first disbursement. So we're going to get 100,000 from the community treasury, which is going to be essentially just held by the TIA right now until we get the Marshall Islands set up. For everyone out there, we did just set up the multi-sig, which was pretty good, between Cowie and Razor. And I need to add my MetaMask, but we'll do that later today. So we're going to get ready to go to enable us to do funding. And while we wait to set up the Tangle DAO Marshall Islands LLC, we will continue receiving and funding grants. So anyone out there, you have the ability to submit a grant proposal to the tangletreasury.org website. Additionally, we can work on developing long-term and short-term goals, and particularly KPI metrics. I think that's something we'll have a separate meeting about, but I'm really interested of what you guys will think of, what KPI metrics are we going to focus on to not only show that the Treasury is doing their job and progressing positively and successfully, but also like proposals, what kind of KPIs could we put on grant receivers as well. I'm going to start working on like data metrics to show current proposal information that will help us managing budget, tracking cost, and just, depending on that, basically so that we can better achieve our long-term and short-term goals. Okay. So roles and responsibility of a reviewer. Reviewers and myself, program lead, terms are 12 months. All members will KYC. This will be held, that information is going to be held by the KYC provider. Action item for me, I'd like to, because we need to get a service provider. We need to get a KYC provider to not just KYC ourselves, which will be done by Audit 1, I believe Philo said, for the TIA, and we can maintain that. But for the proposal receivers, all grant receivers will KYC. So I would like to try to keep a standard of getting 3 to 4 proposals. That's kind of just standard. So I have already reached out to Audit 1. I've already reached out to who was that? So Adam from MyDAO also uses a Web3 audit committee. I can't remember it, but anyways, so I'll reach out to 3 different KYC companies, have meetings with them, and then get price quotes, and we can make a decision on that, on who to use. We have all signed NDAs with the, well, in our contracts, it'll be the NDA, and we'll set up an NDA with the Community Treasury. And that NDA is not that we can't say anything about the Treasury. That's public and that's transparent, but we have to be cognizant, and with every grant receiver, be clear on what they want to publicize and what they don't. Okay. They may, yes, all grants have to be open source, but that is not necessarily until the end of the final deliverable, and they may want to manage their marketing and such on their own way. So we have to respect that. Conflicts of interests. We talked a little bit about that yesterday in our meeting. For the public, conflicts of interest as of right now, and this has been something that we've talked about for probably the last 2 years, is there's a twofold system here. Is one, let's say I'm a reviewer and I work for an NFT marketplace. Just using examples here that people that have ideas. This is not an actual use case here, but so I'm a reviewer. I work for I am a creator of an NFT marketplace. I essentially am paid or make profit from that NFT marketplace. Okay, so now a review comes from, let's say, Sooniverse, that could be a competitor. I could have bias, a conflict of interest, reviewing this proposal, and may either reject it or not. So the community over the last 2 years has discussed the best, probably the best situation here is just to not allow a reviewer to review a proposal that is that they have a conflict of interest in. The downside to that is, if I'm a reviewer and I'm working for an NFT marketplace, I'm probably an expert on building that NFT marketplace, understand the nuances of that NFT marketplace. I'm essentially a subject matter expert in that. I'm not saying everyone that starts a project is a subject matter expert, but so and I think this is something that will organically evolve as we run this process. But for right now, the reviewers will not review those proposals. Either myself or someone that does not have a conflict of interest, or will go to the backup reviewers. Now, our reviewers have some really great expertise in these fields, and I do want to tap into that. So one thing that I had mentioned to them, and I think we'll start doing, is every meeting for maybe 10 or 15 minutes, we'll have someone just give a quick little background and teach us essentially pros and cons of their expertise and what we should look at in proposals. So I still want to tap into those positives that each person has, and maybe I'll start it next week. I'll go over like risk management. Now I'm an oil and gas guy, not a Web3, but just to give an idea of the layout of it. Okay, all members are operating multi-sig with Ledger and similar, which we've started. Let me just check here. Okay. Role and responsibility of reviewer. So we're funding target areas. Okay, this is from the framework. We have 9 guiding principles from the Community Treasury, and I'll pull that up in a second here. We have the funding tiers, 4 funding tiers, and the grading matrix. Has everyone seen the grading matrix? Okay. All right. Review process. So let's just go over this real quick. I think I go over it later, but I just want to try to pull this up. Okay. So this is public now to the community. Let me just adjust this. This is essentially the Tangle Community Treasury DAO, or the Shimmer Community Grant Committee, because this was developed before the vote. So we're going to keep this at the current name of when the community developed this. This is for the grant committee to manage the Shimmer Community Treasury. This is in GitHub. This is also in the website. So if we go to tangletreasury.com, or sorry, .org, we go down GitHub governance, that will hyperlink right to it. Okay, for anyone out there in the public watching. This is essentially how we, the reviewer and the committee, are going to govern and operate this treasury. And this framework was developed by Philo and the community. So we are essentially delegated by the community, we're elected by the community, and we'll operate how the community has decided. So in here, particularly if you come down, here's our guiding principles. So this will be my action, but also if I slip and forget, you guys to double check. When a proposal comes in, I'll be checking, does it meet the guiding principles for funding decisions? So anyone submitting out there wants to submit a proposal to the Treasury, please come to this GitHub, because if it does not meet the guiding principles, then we are going to reject the proposal, okay? And I'll just go through this real quick. It must be relevant to the Shimmer network and its ecosystem. It must not segregate individual organizations, community based on sex, race, color, et cetera, et cetera. You can read this. This is a standard European. The committee will prioritize projects with the highest potential and positive impact on the ecosystem compared to the received funding. So we're probably going to get a lot of proposals. And I know people out there have great proposals. It's going to be very difficult because we don't have a large treasury today. So we may not be necessarily rejecting a proposal because it's not a good proposal. We may be rejecting the proposal because it simply may, in our minds, not be the best proposal. But for any proposal that gets rejected, I think we will know that, and we'll reach out and say, hey, this was a great proposal. We just don't have the opportunity to fund it at this time. Maybe you should come back, later that year or in the next year, etc. The proposer or team must be capable of delivering the proposed project. That's going to be us. And for I think it's tier 2s and 3s, I'll have to look. We will do interviews with the team. And clearly we want to make sure that whoever is seeking funding can actually complete the project. All funded projects must be open source. You will only receive 50% of the proposed budget until the funds are open sourced. So you can get 50%, and then when you complete your project, you open source it, and then you can receive the second 50%, or it can be broken down into milestones, etc. The requested budget must match industry standard for comparable tasks. If a proposal requests way above fair market value, the committee will dialogue with the team to request adjustments. The committee may either reject such a proposal to cut the funding to settle a fair market value. You know, we understand maybe people have great experience and are moving into a new field and may have not known, so we'll work together with you. But reality, we have to, you know, recently there was, I can't remember what it was, but they're spending, another treasury from another crypto was spending like $1.5 million to do a weekend event. I mean, this is, I'm not saying anything, but it just seems a little over market value. And we unfortunately don't have a $400 million treasury to just go first class seats for the committee to go and wine and dine over Paris or something. If a project has already received funding from the Tangle Ecosystem Association, it cannot receive from the community treasury for the exact same scope of work. But the committee can grant additional funding for extensions or further developments to such a project. What does this mean? Okay, you're a project out there, you've submitted to the TIA, and you've got funding. Let's say you were building a analytics dashboard for governance, and you delivered that, and you got funded for that. Now you want to maybe add something to that analytics dashboard. Yes, absolutely. Submit your new deliverable, and then you could get funding from us. If you submitted to the TIA and you haven't delivered yet, and then you come to us and want to get funding for the same exact deliverable, we're going to reject that, unfortunately. Okay. And then it'll be on myself and probably especially people in the growth committee to communicate with the TIA to make sure that projects, grants aren't getting funded in both baskets. A proposal that creates a conflict of interest from members of the proposing team or committee members must be reported to the committee lead. Committee members with conflicts of interest cannot process, comment, or vote on a proposal. So that's the big key there, that we have it in the guiding principles. To the community, you know, we will respect and follow this framework. So, you know, if someone has a conflict of interest, please let me know. And then please do not vote, do not review, and do not comment on the proposal. And we'll see how that process. Go ahead.
I have a question for that. Like, what exactly does comment mean in this context? So, for example, if I see something that I have a conflict of interest in, I should refrain from doing a public comment on it, or
more so. Let's say we had a NFT marketplace project, and you had a conflict of interest for that, and then we had a meeting like this, and we started discussing it. And Linus and Cowie and Garrett don't have a conflict of interest in myself. So we're discussing the pros and cons. To me, this is saying that, you know, you wouldn't jump in and join the discussion. Now, let's see how this process goes. I think we lose a lot of experience from the reviewers in this, but this is what the community voted, and we have to do our best to stick to that. This is probably something we'll talk about in the governance meetings. And, you know, we'll see. It's definitely going to protect that risk of someone rejecting or trying to negatively hurt another project that could be possibly or will be competition. But we're going to lose some experience from this subject matter expert, such that I still want that experience. And every 15 minutes of every meeting, we can have, you know, you guys tell us what we should look at in these proposals, etc. So yeah. So does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah.
And again, let's, you know, we'll do quarterly meetings to say, hey, this is the framework, this is the process, how's it going? And then we can also report to the governance meeting and the community. And again, this is going to be an evolving process once we get going and see what works, what doesn't. Any attempts of bribery or offer of future payments, token ownership, compensation, gifts form to committee members will lead to the immediate cancellation of proposal process. Accepted bribes by committee members will lead to the immediate removal of the members from the committee. Any form to amendment will lead to the immediate cancellation. Okay. So please let me know privately if this happens. Okay. We're not going to publicize if a grant requester offers something. I've worked in many countries from America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Middle East. Some cultures, that's just part of the bribery. It's not a negative connotation. So someone may have not read this and this framework and maybe submitted a proposal and then offers a little bribe. I think the first action is just to say, hey, please go to the framework, read this. If they offer a bribe again, I mean, both of those incidents, let me know. If they offer the bribe again, then we will reject their proposal. And of course, without a doubt, if anyone is accepting bribes, you're going to be removed from the committee. Okay. So I really just wanted to touch base on those guiding principles and real quickly on the funding tiers, because I think I want to make sure that we, not the funding tiers, but the funding objectives, make sure that we have read. And now to the community, that the team has read this framework. I'm just going over it for not only the public, but just another time for ourselves. Where is it? Oh yeah, target areas. Okay, funding objectives. The community has decided that our funding priorities and objectives are going to be to increase the utility of the Shimmer network and attract new builders, to promote Shimmer and make it more visible and attractive to the DLT space, to enable projects to establish successful and profitable business models on Shimmer. Target areas and grant funding, applications and integrations, front ends, DeFi, gaming, and other applications that use Shimmer protocol L1, L2. Incentivizing established successful projects from different ecosystems to deploy their applications on the Shimmer network. Developing tooling, open source software developed using Shimmer technology, analytics tools and dashboards, community education, marketing and outreach initiatives, code audits, events, community meetups, hackathons, and bounties. Okay. I think another meeting will go over in our short-term and long-term goals, like what should we focus in Q2 now? What should we focus in Q3 now? I mean, do we, as we talked about this a little bit yesterday, we might not necessarily want to start funding to pull developers from other ecosystems because EVM isn't fully on Shimmer staging network yet. So maybe we want to focus on more education or something. So we'll talk about that in that meeting. I just want to show that, to the public that these are our funding objectives and target grant funding. So really, if you're submitting a grant, you want to meet the guiding principles, and then you want to focus on these funding objectives and target areas and grant funding. And also, once we have a couple more meetings and get a really good idea of what we're focusing on the short term, we'll communicate that, and we'll be looking for grants that are under that. Not super strict though. I mean, if we see a grant that's amazing and etc., we're always open to that. Okay. Funding tiers and grading matrix. Let me go over the funding tiers real quick for just people out there. So on the tangletreasury.org website, we have the funding tiers: tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4. Tier 1 up to 5,000, up to 50,000, up to 200,000, and up to 500,000. Now, actually, this is also, it's a little confusing, but it's also dependent on market cap. We have low tiers and regular tier. So if the Shimmer market cap, and that's the total, that's not the claimed. So it's the total market cap of all the SMR tokens, claimed or not claimed, is between 50 and 100 million, we're in a low tier. If it's over 100 million, we're in regular tiers. And if we're below 50 million, we're not going to do any funding. And that's because we would just deplete the treasury extremely quick. In the low tiers, the tiers go tier 1, max 5,000, 5 to 25, 25 to 100, 100 to 250. On the regular tiers, when the market cap is 100 million, the same 4 tiers, but the funding amount, like when you get to tier 2, goes from 5 to 50,000, right? Under 100 million, we're only going to fund tier 2s up to 25. 50 to 200,000 in tier 3, 200 to 500,000 for tier 4. Now, again, developed by the community. Everything underneath the funding amount stays the same between the two market cap separations. So tier 1 will have 2 reviewers. KYC is required. 100% is funded right off the bat. We're going to try to do a quick decision, quick funding. Okay, so if we get a tier 1, I'm going to just prioritize that over anything else. Vet it, make sure it's good, assign 2 reviewers. Let's try to prioritize that. If you can't, like if you're, I mean, like maybe you're on a work something, if you don't have the time basically in the next 24 hours to review that proposal, just let me know and we'll use another reviewer. Tier 1s, it definitely has been stated in treasuries that people seeking grants, quickness supports growth, quickness of funding. Problem is that also adds some risk to it, so we keep it just a tier 1. Tier 2, 5 to 25,000 when market cap under 100 and up to 50,000 over 100. 2 reviewers, KYC required. The grant submitter must give us 2 milestones. They must write out 2 clear deliverable milestones. We'll do a video interview with the proposal, the individual that submitted the proposal, and 50% can be given initially. Tier 3, the entire committee, so it's 4 reviewers, 25 to 100,000 in the below 100 million, 50,000 to 200,000 above the 100 million. KYC required, minimum 3 milestones. Okay, that's 1 milestone more, and that's a minimum, so you can put more. We'll do a video interview. I believe it's with the whole team or a couple members from the team. 30% initial funding, and a PM aside, a project manager, or we could call it a grant manager. What's a grant manager? A grant manager is a reviewer or myself, and we're not managing the project. Someone's submitting a grant. We're not at all trying to manage your production or your operating ability of your project. What this is strictly that if we want to give you one-on-one, almost like concierge service, where if you need support from the treasury, if you need support from the IF, if you need support from the community, let us know. We also strictly, if let's say it's a 5 milestone and you had written on that milestone that it was going to be completed in Q3, our grant manager may reach out towards the end of Q3 to see where you're at. Where's your budget at? Where's your schedule? We're just looking to get information so that we can manage our funding and oversight, and also that we can be supportive of the grant receivers in any support they need. If they're going over budget, if they're going over schedule, that project team would reach out to the grant manager, and then you guys would just relay back to me or bring it to the meetings. Does that make sense? So not a lot of time. We don't want to spend a lot of time on that. Just basically a direct communication for the projects. We'll go through the grant manager to us and myself. Okay, so tier 1, 2, and 3, that's all of us. Whoops. We as a committee will review and fund tier 1 through 3. Tier 4, if the market cap is below 100 million for Shimmer, Then anything over 100,000 will be a tier 4. If the market cap is above 100 million, it will be above 200,000. We're not going to get crazy on this. If it was below the market cap at the time of funding, then that's what tier they sit in, you know, rather than like, well, this milestone was in this tier and whatever. We don't need to get too crazy about that. And if any person submitting a grant is confused about that, feel free to reach out myself or Linus, please, or anyone in the committee. Tier 4, the entire committee will review the proposal first. And if we feel that it should go forward, which essentially, one, doesn't meet the guiding principles, doesn't meet the Treasury's funding objectives, and then, is this suitable to vote on? If we decide that, then it would go to a community Firefly vote phase 3, KYC required, multiple milestones, a video interview, 20% initial funding, and a grant manager. Now, we only have so much, right? We can't just do 3 tier 4s fundings, and then we have no projects to fund the rest of the year. So that's where the committee comes in. You know, we may or may not do a tier 4 this year. It depends on the price of Shimmer, and it depends on the value of the Treasury. I would like to. I'm saying that out to the community. I think it would be a great opportunity to involve the community, but we're still in a bear market, and I think we need a month or two to just even get a handle on budget management and funding management. Okay, so that's the 4 tiers. And let's see here. That's the 4 tiers for grant submitters. That's how the committee is going to assess these and the grading metrics. I'll just go over the grading metrics real quick. So if anyone's submitting proposals out there, they go to tangletreasury.org and they'll submit a proposal, and I'll show that later. But the committee, this is the tiers. We showed that and discussed that. This is the grading matrix. So if you submit a proposal out there to the Tangle Treasury, the Tangle Community Treasury, and wonder how are they going to grade my proposal, all that information is right here. Okay, we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 basically categories that we grade this in, and the reviewers are going to put 0 to 4. Okay, so relevance to Shimmer IOTA ecosystem. We'll review that proposal and we'll ask ourselves, you know, the project is very relevant to the Shimmer IOTA ecosystem, exclusively builds on the Shimmer network. They may currently have an MVP on Shimmer already. Okay, boom. Outstanding, 4 points. Or the project is relevant to the Shimmer ecosystem and either builds exclusively on Shimmer or plans to deploy later on IOTA mainnet as a second instance. So they may have another product on another network, and you know, that would get maybe 3 points. Or needs improvement. The project treats Shimmer as one of many chains and doesn't seem loyal to the Shimmer IOTA network. And this is partly, you know, do we want to fund projects that basically take 5% of their budget to build on Shimmer and then 95% of their budget to build on their own network, right? Again, if we go back to that guiding principle, we are currently, this is just year 1, focusing on projects that are building on Shimmer, right? If we get a $400 million treasury, then maybe we could say, hey, spend 80% on your own as long as 20% of your project connects to Shimmer. And now we're bringing people over. But right now, we just want to focus on the foundation and growing the Shimmer network. Okay, so I'm not going to go through all these just in time essence, but anyone submitting a proposal, the team's already gone over this. This is how your proposal is going to be graded. What does that mean? So a project should reach a particular score of eligibility for certain fundings. Tier 4, the score is 17 of 20. If that score is below 17, we're probably not going to fund it. Tier 3, 15 to 20. Tier 1 to 2, minimum 13 of 20. Okay, so now this is all automated through the process of tangletreasury.org. Once a grant receiver submits a proposal and the team grades it, it will automate that this number here. Okay. Now, can a project, can someone submit a grant and receive a little extra points? We do want to prioritize. We want to prioritize that this treasury doesn't just deplete after 3 years. So how do we refill the treasury? This is something that the governance community is going to have to discuss and work on over the next couple of years. This is something we can think of the next year. But for right now, the one opportunity we have is to say, hey, we'll fund your project. And if you're creating a token, if you offer a small percentage of tokens to the treasury, you can get extra points. Okay. Does this mean we prioritize a project over another simply because they give tokens? Absolutely not. We're looking at the whole effect of, is this going to support, is this going to grow the Shimmer ecosystem? That's it. Okay. So saying that, just because you meet this score doesn't mean automatically that your proposal will get funded. Again, we come back to, we're limited in how much we have to spend this year. So we may get 3 projects in a quarter for a tier 3 that all have a 19 score, or one's an 18 and one's a 20. Just because you're 20 doesn't mean we fund you over the 18. We'll then have a meeting and we'll discuss which we think is the best for the ecosystem. Okay. All right. So that is the grading matrix. All right. So we went over this. I'll put this link. Well, it's on the website. If anyone in the community wants to see all that information, we went over funding objectives, target areas.
As a quick question.
Yes, sir.
Regarding to the tier, for example, this project is they are applying for like a tier 4 grant, but actually we found out it's not good enough for tier 4, but it's maybe good enough for tier 3. Do we tell them you are qualified for tier 3, which is which amount, or do we just tell them no, you haven't got through this? So what should we do?
It's a good idea. I think that's a great idea. And let's see. Let me. Whoops. So we have the video interviews for tier 2 and 3, and also tier 4 video interview. So that's something that we can discuss as a group together. If you think, if you say, hey guys, I reviewed this, and there'll be review comments. So like, let's say a tier 4 comes in and I say, hey guys, I think this is a good idea. Throw it out. You can put in your comment, you know, I think this is great. Don't know if it's a tier 4. Maybe they can do this with a lower budget. Let's drop this down to tier 3. We'll discuss that in this weekly meeting or our another meeting. And if we agree to, if we as a committee agree, then we would do that video interview and we would ask the team, you know, hey, can we, you know, maybe we can fund 3 of your 4 milestones under a tier 3, but we can't quite get that last one or something like that. Does that sound okay?
Yeah, I think it's really fair. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Okay. Committee communication process. So every meeting, appreciate you guys working with me from the US here. So we'll do 3 p.m. CET, 7 a.m. US, and 9 p.m. Singapore, China time. And if we can, Tuesday would be best. Okay, so we got that covered. Okay, so these will be public meetings recorded for the community. I'll put them up at the governance YouTube. And I think at some point, especially in the beginning, till we get going, maybe I'll reach out to you guys on the our group message, and we'll do like a private meeting until we start flowing really good. To the community, I know there's some people as, oh, all you're going to do is meetings and just pay yourself and not look at any reviews. You know, bear with us, give us a month. You know, I want to be fully transparent in this treasury. So just understand that, and we do want to focus on cost efficiency and not having excessive meetings. But as this is just kicking off right now, we need to get our processes in place, get a flow going, and all of us really, I think it's important to come to a good short-term and long-term vision for the community treasury. Communication medium. So we agreed on doing Discord. We've got a chat going, and then I still need to create the what do you call it? A Discord group for us. All right, event tracking. Meetings will be shown on the calendar at this website address. All meetings, including public and private, will be shown, and any other events such as quarterly transparency reports or other ecosystem governance meetings. Okay, so I'm trying to put everything on one website, basically. So here, there's a calendar of events section. You can filter out, like if you just want to see treasury events. Okay, so here's today. It's not really the best highlighted, but it shows, okay, April 4th, this time, treasury public meeting. These are the event descriptions, location, Google Meeting. It's not hyperlinked because we don't need to do that. I need to add one there, actually, it looks like. And so this one, it's just the general. I haven't put the outline because we're not there yet. And here is invoice. So I'm going to try to do something like this where you can see when we submit invoices. We'll do it by every 2 weeks. So if you're ever unsure, and it should say, you know, hey, submit your second invoice for period 16 to 29, or submit your first invoice for April 1st to April 15th. Okay. We will also have on here, for those in the public, a governance voting schedule that we came up with. Just a FYI, governance is like non-treasury. Governance is still being built. Please join the Thursday meetings with smart contracts. That's going to really take off. But if we are still using the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and this was one of the schedules that was proposed. Governance meetings with IF are listed, and it shows the Discord link. TIAs, I should separate that, but the growth committees will be shown here. Those will not be public because those are NDA meetings. Okay. Tasks ahead. Okay, what tasks do we have? Can I zoom out on this? Marshall Islands, that's a big one. How long will it take? I would say 4 to 8 weeks. We know the ICCD had, it took a bit longer. Marshall Islands, or MyDAO has said that they've worked out their process kinks and they're a lot quicker. They also said the longest lead time was the operating agreement, and we already have that completed. So we have the longest lead time completed. So hopefully we get sooner. I did not send the operating agreements out to you guys. I will do that after this meeting today. Please review it. To those watching outside, the operating agreement for the Marshall Islands LLC is governed by the GitHub Treasury framework. Okay, so that essentially that operating agreement is this framework written into it, and ultimately and everywhere says the operating agreement must adhere to this and essentially can only be changed by this, as well as the Shimmer governance framework, which is how we created the Treasury, the phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and discourse. So both of these documents always will govern the operating agreement. Once we get going and flowing, I think we'll all be added to this, and we will manage this GitHub account. Philo will come off. Before that, we'll set up the rules in place where this document, either of these two documents, the content, the intention of this document cannot be changed unless 2 or 3 of us review that change. And to the community out there, this cannot be changed unless we do a full phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 vote as we use to even create these. So just know that we cannot go in and change the framework as a committee. We cannot change the operating agreement. Excuse me. Okay. Transparency quarterly reports. I've looked at other treasuries and I laugh sometimes because either it's really difficult to see what the hell they're spending their money on, or they simply don't show it, or they do a quarterly transparency report, and instead of just showing like a cash flow statement or a balance sheet, they literally phonetically write everything out. We spend, you know, this and that, and it's like 3 pages of 20 paragraphs. It's like, just give me a basic breakdown of, you know, what did you start with, what did you end with, and what did you spend your money on. Another thing I see is they put it all in their base currency, which then you're going, okay, well, what's the current? Let me sit here with a calculator. Now, I would put a lot of money on if they were going to a VC and putting a proposal in, those numbers would be a lot more clearly understood than what they're showing to the community. So I want us to show to the community simple, understandable transparency reports. So we can show SMR, but just like you would send it to a bank or something, you'd say, on this date, this conversion rate was this, and you'd show, you know, USD value, or on Q1 at the start was this value USD and SMR holdings. On the end of the quarter, it was this USD value and SMR holdings. So you kind of have both. I want to make it very easy. You should be able to look at this transparency report and in 5 to 10 minutes know, what did we start with? Value, SMR. What did we end with? Value, SMR. What did we spend our money on? What percentage was spent on running costs, administration? How many hours did the committee spend reviewing, and what's their cost, et cetera, et cetera. This will probably, go ahead. Anyone have a comment? Razor, are you frozen or am I frozen? Okay. I think you're muted. All right. Anyways, transparency quarterly report. So that's something I'm going to work on the next couple weeks. I mean, I'll try to get something definitely done by this quarter. And I want to try to go over it with you guys and get your guys' input on some of the other meetings. If you have any suggestions and any templates that you see other treasuries doing really good transparency reports, please DM them to me. Anyone out there in the community watching this, if you see any really good transparency reports that you like, please send those to me, because we can make, you know, we can use those as a basis to work on. You guys still hear me? Okay, just want to make sure my internet's not out. Quarterly KPI tracking. I think this will be really important. Let's see. Check here. Accounting standards. Like, yeah, absolutely. We can use basic accounting standards, but don't have to follow them 100%. 100%. Totally agree with that. Yeah. And in that transparency report, we can include KPI tracking. And I think this will be important probably for our next meetings to discuss what KPIs do we want to track, and then how do we track that? Like maybe Twitter account, how many followers we have, etc. activity, the website activity, and then of course all the how many proposals we send. You know, how can we judge that we're doing good for the ecosystem? I think that's really something that we need to discuss in another meeting. Of how can we say, hey, we funded these projects and the ecosystem grew some by N value. Okay. I think it's going to be very difficult to kind of get down to our variable in that growth, but let's try to find something so that we can know if we're doing a good job or a bad job quantitatively, if possible. So you guys that have PhDs and scientists, see, give me your thoughts later on. Contract legal representation. Okay, so we have Paulo, the lawyer, helping us with the Marshall Islands. Now that we're set up, I'll sign a contract from the with him, and that will, once the LLC set up, it will be the Tangle LLC signing with him. Tasks ahead, we need to come up with a good SMR, USDT, or USDC exchange process written out. How do we do that without affecting the market price? Okay, I think small exchanges, OTC, spread out to different exchanges. And I saw some other treasuries, I forget what the name of it was, but it even had in there very particular. If the price starts dropping as you're exchanging the currency to USDT to pay expenses or grants, you stop, right? Like stop, wait till it levels out, do another small bit. We are not going to, into the community out there watching, our sole priority will, when we do exchange SMR to USD, is not to affect the market price at any time. Okay. And we will be focusing on that. And if we ever do find that it is happening, we will adjust our process to prevent that in any way we can. Low priorities in the future. I want to myself start, and anyone that has networks or anyone out there in the community, I think it's important that our treasury connects with other treasuries, that our network connects with other networks. Let's build governance together. Let's bring in hopefully someone and learn from that. What worked for their treasury, what worked for their governance, what didn't work. And at all possible, maybe 2 treasuries can fund a project. Let's say there's a project on Polygon that wants to connect with Shimmer, kind of like what you were saying, Garrett, but Polygon doesn't, let's say they were in essence comparable to our tier 4, but they don't want to fund it as a tier 4. They want to fund it as a tier 3, and maybe they need some finance from us. Boom, let's work together with other treasuries, because we don't have a lot, but together with other ones, maybe we could start supporting these other projects coming into our community. So that's kind of a long-term goal that I'm going to try to take a day every week and just reach out to contacts and contact other people and start building that network. Technical support, consultants and support and review milestones for the treasury. So I've heard some comments about, hey, we don't have devs on our team. Yes. There are no technical full-on developers in the committee. Developers get paid $180 an hour to more, or a little less, whatever, across the board. We pay $50 an hour. We're not that huge treasury that can fund a hot shit developer that knows how to develop DLT code as well. Does that mean we are going to act as a treasury without consulting with developers? I don't think so. I would not like to. So on the Tangle Treasury website, on the public one, I believe, if you are a developer out there, please, this is only viewed, all your information is only viewed by the co-lead and the program lead. The co-lead is Linus and myself. No one else can see this information. Please submit an application, because when we come to a milestone, let's say we don't have experience with that code. I know some guys do on the team, but if it's a code that we don't have experience with, and we want to make sure that their deliverable matches the milestone that they said they were going to deliver, we want to bring in a technical consultant for 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever. Of course, give us an hourly rate, your hourly rate, and we will pay you to review that deliverable. Okay. All right. So we're going to run out of time here. The only thing I didn't fully go over for the community is the actual process, but we can do that another time. I will just show to the community here at the end, tangletreasury.org. Go to tangletreasury.org and you have everything to submit a proposal. You go to the submit proposal and you will answer all these questions. Okay. Here, the tier allowance, low tier, regular tier, based on the coin market currency of Shimmer on the total supply. So just go to that link, figure out what, if it's under 100 million, you're on low tier. Over 100 million, you're on regular tier. Go through, fill out all your information. The attachments, as discussed by one of the community members, will not be public. The information from a proposal will be shown here to the public community. We don't have any proposals, so we don't see anything. What we take out is email, attachments, any personal information. So none of that will be shown here. Only your project, what you're proposing, etc. And no attachments will be shown until we figure out a process to make sure it's safe for the community. KPI metrics. This is something that I want to start build. This is not quite there. It's not in real time. It's something that we may need the community to support us in building real-time KPIs, prices, etc. Anyone out there that wants to learn about the committee, we are building the committee page. Okay, we're still waiting for a few members to provide some summaries. We have just a quick about the Treasury. And then we have Treasury support. If anyone out there is struggling, directly message me, Linus, the co-lead, or any reviewer. You can also go to govern.iota.org, IOTA Discord, governance. I have to update that, but we'll put our Treasury Twitter profile. And then if you're not getting any support from the Tangle Treasury Committee, please contact Philo or Antonio Ardella. Okay, they would be your point of contacts if you are having issues with the Tangle Treasury Committee and feeling that you're not getting resolved. Please move on to the next level, which would be Philo from they are the community representatives for the IOTA Foundation and the Shimmer Protocol. And then we have the public administration. So anyone out there, I want to always maintain transparency. So this is going to be our yearly financial summaries, and every single expense is going to be listed here. Okay. Like this has not been issued yet, but this will be the fee to MyDAO to set up the Marshall Islands. This is our initial SMR supply. And all of that information, it's going to show whether the invoice was paid. And then there'll always be a transaction URL showing, my internet's slow right now, but showing the transaction. So anyone at any time should be able to audit this and see every single penny that the Treasury has spent. Okay. Then we have project management. This is simply going to be able to see what the Treasury. Hey, can one of you guys message Philo and just let him know I'll be done in like 5 minutes? Okay. This is the project management. It's just going to show how we manage the Treasury, events, action items, etc. You could always click on to kind of see, you know, this is a Gantt chart. Okay, this item is in progress, and this is working on accepting proposals on Marshall Island. What we have to do to complete this project step. Again, we went over the calendar of events. So for everyone who wants to know what's coming from the committee ourselves, like when we submit invoices, meetings, and to the community. All meeting minutes and videos will be held here. Okay, so anyone in the community can come and click on this, and they will find the meeting minutes for that meeting, or they can click on a video link and they will get directed to the YouTube. Okay. Governance proposals. If you're wondering about governance proposals, non-Treasury, right? They're always here, and it's going to show all your links to the governance proposals that you can see. So once we start doing more governance, you could always come to this and see the governance proposals. And then social media. If you're ever interested to see what tweets are going on, they'll always be here. And then the technical consultant forums. I'll go over this another meeting. These are our tabs to go over for the committee. But that is the website in a nutshell. We've gone over how to submit a proposal, how the committee is going to review the proposal, and we'll go over how we're going to fund it in the future, but how we're going to basically on a large scale manage it. So going to close the meeting out. Next time we'll do the 15 minutes in the early. I'll try to shorten my content so that we can just have more of a discussion, and maybe we'll go a little longer. We do have the meeting next, so I apologize for not offering that ability for discussion, but I just wanted to give an outline of where we're at and where we're looking to go. Does that sound good? Does anyone have something really important to discuss, question, or say? Going once, going twice, going 3 times. All right, JD in 3 minutes, Growth Committee. Yes. Okay, so we're going to jump off. Thank you guys for joining. I'll talk with you offline. We'll get another meeting lined up. And thanks everyone in the community. If you have any questions, again, please reach out to myself, Linus, or anyone in the committee. Please join the Thursday governance meeting and get active. We have a treasury. Let's grow the Shimmer ecosystem. Bye-bye.
Thank you
Bye.
and bye.
Bye.